We have another disturbing ICE shooting, raising serious questions after a man was shot in the head and then handcuffed while lying on the ground dead. Witnesses say his 3-year-old daughter watched the entire thing. We will talk about it. Donald Trump had a new plan for Lindsey Graham's Senate seat, and they're doing it, making Lindsey's sister the senator of South Carolina. Also, Trump teasing a major national address Thursday night. People immediately wondering, is he going to resign? The answer is, of course not. I think something very concerning is coming. I'll tell you what. And we now have even a Republican senator questioning whether this proof of life picture of Senator Mitch McConnell is even real or whether it's new. And I think there's a bigger story building here about what's happening to the Republican Party. Plus, Donald Trump keeps giving strange interview after interview. At one point yesterday, saying that he hit Iran with the nuclear. Does Donald Trump think that he nuked Iran? And later, Donald Trump is finally asked, what happens if Democrats do take back the House and impeach you? And he doesn't like it. It was not something he wanted to talk about. All of that and more today. Well, it's happening again and it's going viral. ICE has killed a man, and in this particular situation, killed him and then handcuffed him, leaving passersby, people in Maine where the incident happened, and quite frankly, Americans just completely and totally horrified. Let me talk you through what happened. I am going to play a video here. It's from quite zoomed out. It's not graphic in the sense of being gory, but I believe what we are going to see here is a man who is already dead, dragged out of a car and handcuffed once on the ground. Again, this may be considered graphic in a sense. This is one of the images that is fueling outrage and sparking protests. It's another ICE shooting. This one is in Biddeford, Maine. Take a look at this. So this is the victim of the shooting, reportedly believed to be long dead when he was dragged out of his car and then handcuffed. Now, he has been identified as a 26-year-old Colombian man who, according to immigrants' rights advocates, was authorized to work in the United States and was on his way to work when this encounter took place and led to him losing his life. There are reports, this is just heartbreaking. Witnesses say that this took place in front of the man's 3-year-old daughter, who was reportedly still wearing her bluey pajamas. Folks, why? Videos show what is an extraordinarily chaotic scene. It involves a white Kia sedan. You see the federal agents in the video wearing vests, identifying themselves, some as police, some as ICE. There are other videos. We're not going to just play video after video here, but there's a video that shows, it appears to show a collision with the Kia. There are pictures that show bullet holes in the driver's side of the car, and witnesses understandably gave differing accounts of what exactly happened in the moments before the shooting. One witness said the driver appeared to put the car into drive and move towards an agent after repeated commands, at which point the agent fired. That's one report. Another witness says that they looked out after hearing the gunshots and said that the victim was bleeding from the head but still speaking, and that the man repeatedly said, I tried to stop, I tried to stop. Some conflicting reports. These facts are going to need to be sorted out by investigators. Do we believe that these investigators are the unbiased and impartial observers who should be carrying out such an investigation? I don't know. I'm leaning towards probably not, but a number of very troubling aspects to this case already. First of all, Senator Angus King of Maine said that after speaking with Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin, who, by the way, has no business being Homeland Security Secretary, he was informed that the man who was killed was not even the target of the warrant that officers were trying to execute. Think about that. If that is accurate, forget about they were too rough with the guy they were looking for. This means it is another person who was not even the intended target who is ending up dead during another one of these harebrained ICE operations. And we've seen similar things before. Just last week, another man was fatally shot by an ICE agent in Texas. And there were some initial descriptions which said, oh, this was a targeted immigration enforcement op. And it later came out that the man who was killed was also reportedly not the intended target. So aside from should ICE be using this amount of force, how should they be dealing with people in vehicles who move the vehicles? But like that, those are all legitimate questions and they deserve to be investigated. But there's another pattern worth examining, which is they aren't even getting the people they are looking for in the operation. Secondly, we have the video itself. After the shooting, agents remove the man from the vehicle, put him on the ground, and handcuff him. And it is not that unusual for law enforcement agencies to handcuff wounded suspects as a precaution if they believe the suspect could still pose a threat. That's not unique to ICE. This is a guy who seems dead and is being placed in handcuffs. And it is just an insane thing to see. In the United States, one of the richest countries in the world, supposedly one of the most advanced, although socially we have to wonder how advanced are we really when we see stuff like this. And then we have what I guess I would call the broader context, which is that immigration enforcement officers now have repeatedly justified fatal shootings by saying, I thought we were about to be run over. I thought I was about to be run over. Remember, that happened with Renee Good. And often those claims are just not supported by evidence. Now, sometimes we see incidents where it's at least plausible that someone was about to take off and potentially run over an agent. But very often it is not the case. This is why we need independent investigations. And the public shouldn't be asked simply to accept whatever version of events is being given. And by the way, the public shouldn't simply accept the version of events that comes from activists or witnesses or the president or senators or federal agencies. We need proper investigations. We need body camera footage if it exists. We need surveillance video if it's available, forensic evidence, witness interviews. We need all of it. And often it doesn't appear as though investigators are following the evidence wherever it leads. Fox News, of course, going, oh, there are protests now because of this. How dare they?
17 minutes past the hour right now. Anti-ICE protests outside the office of Senator Susan Collins after a deadly shooting in Maine involving an ICE agent. This is Bedford, where the shooting happened about 25 minutes south of Portland. Our correspondent Alexis McAdams is reporting live here in New York City. She's got the latest details on what is happening there. Alexis?
Hey, Sandra. So as you can see here on your screen, this is a live look at what's going on in Maine. We know federal agents are trying to piece together everything that happened as witnesses tell local media that ICE agents surrounded a car.
All right. So people are protesting. Now, the broader issue, as I mentioned, is that we now have nearly a dozen ICE shootings justified by the claim that agents were about to be run over. In roughly half of those cases, when we later got the evidence, it didn't seem as though ICE agents were about to be run over, nor could they have reasonably thought that they were. And when the government uses deadly force against someone, especially when we're talking about civil immigration enforcement operations, these are not pursuits of violent criminals in many of these cases. There is a burden of transparency that is big. If the shooting was legally justified, we must have evidence that establishes that. If there were mistakes made, we deserve to know what happened and why. If the people who say we must support and defend our law enforcement want us to be confident in law enforcement, we need more than they were afraid of getting run over, absent evidence of any kind. So in cases like this, if you are starting a process of accountability, we need proper investigations by impartial investigators and getting all of the available facts out into the open. People are right to say, hey, I don't know that I believe them when they go, he was about to get run over, because 6 of the 12 incidents, when we finally got evidence, it didn't seem that that was the case at all. Another day under Trump's ICE in the United States. Donald Trump has spent years telling Americans, we've got to drain the swamp. We've got to get the corruption out. We've got to get the nepotism out and the cronyism out and all of that crap. And of course, he doesn't do it. But in the last few hours, we got one of the clearest examples of how power becomes personal. It becomes about loyalty and family and friends. As many of you know, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham died suddenly 2 days ago. And the country had kind of barely finished processing the news. And Trump went on Truth Social and he said, I'm recommending that Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene Graham Nordone, be appointed senator by the South Carolina Republican Governor Henry McMaster for the seat that is going to be vacant for a period of time. And Donald Trump didn't go, oh, she's so qualified. She has such legislative experience. She's the best person to represent the millions of South Carolinians. It would just be a tribute to Lindsey. That's Donald Trump's argument, posting to Truth Social, quote, I recommended to Governor Henry McMaster Lindsey Graham's wonderful sister Darlene to serve as interim senator from the great state of South Carolina. This would be a fabulous tribute to Lindsey, who loved her dearly. And then Governor McMaster followed through, appointing her to serve the remainder of the term until early January. They're really doing it. Here is video of the governor of South Carolina appointing Lindsey's sister to become a senator in the U.S. Senate. Oh, my God.
Today, under the law, it's my duty and honor to name someone to serve in the place of this irresistible man, this irreplaceable man, this extraordinary man for the remainder of his term. Lindsey took care of his little sister in years long departed. It's my honor to ask his little sister, Darlene Graham, to finish his work for him now. And by the way, Darlene, I don't know if I told you, but after we spoke on the phone in the wee hours of Sunday morning, and you agreed to serve through tears, earlier, I had wondered what you would say, and I was humbled by your quickness to see the duty that you had to serve.
A real sacrifice she's making, agreeing to be handed a Senate seat, one of the most powerful elected offices in the country. You've got senators who vote on Supreme Court nominees. They vote on federal judges. They vote on cabinet officials, military promotions, budgets, tax policy, war powers, legislation that affects every American. The seat doesn't belong to a family. This seat is being given to her because of her name. I thought they were against political dynasties in the United States. Shouldn't this belong to the people of South Carolina? Yet Donald Trump's instinct it's almost like an inheritance. It's a family keepsake. It's an heirloom. Lindsey was senator, so now his sister gets to have it for a little while. This, despite all the drain the swamp crap that these people love to talk about, this is a remarkable way to think about public office. Now, of course, governors have legal authority in many states, not in every state, but South Carolina is one of the states where the governor does get to appoint an interim senator when there's a vacancy. That's not the issue. The issue is the reasoning. Now, if they could articulate that Darlene Graham Nordone happened to be not only the sister of Lindsey, but the strongest choice because they did a serious search. And you know what? Of all the people in South Carolina, we considered Nancy Mace and decided no, and we consider whoever. And it's Darlene Graham who is the most qualified. Okay, well, maybe you could make that case by talking about her background and her experience and her ability to do the job. Instead, she's Lindsey's sister. It's nepotism in its purest form. It's an honor. It's to remember Lindsey's memory. We are going to use a family connection as the primary qualification. Trump said he was going to drain the swamp and this stuff was going to stop. This is exactly how democratic institutions become weakened over time. Because in a healthy democracy, we build around the idea that offices outlast the people who temporarily occupy them. And when we fill a position, we fill it because somebody's qualified. They have earned the public trust. Voters chose them or something. Now, if you look at these patronage systems in countries we usually say we're not like them, you see that political power kind of stays within families and loyalists and insiders, and the office starts serving the network rather than serving the public. Now, notice something else about this whole announcement. There was zero discussion about South Carolina's needs over the next several months. There's no discussion of, listen, South Carolina's economy is in a tough situation. Military bases in South Carolina, agriculture in South Carolina, ports, hurricane preparedness. There's nothing here about representing constituents. It's just about, it was Lindsey, and now it's Lindsey's sister. Donald Trump also, as always is the case, making everything about himself and what's good for him. And he posted another Truth Social where he said, quote, in honor of Senator Lindsey Graham, a big supporter, the U.S. Senate should pass the Clarity Act. China and many other countries would like to take complete and total control of this major financial happening, as well as AI, where we are now leading, but where they are fighting hard. Don't let China win on either subject. In honor of Lindsey Graham, what the hell are you talking about? This is just, hey, I want this thing. Can we tack Lindsey's name on it one way or the other? They haven't drained the swamp. There's more corruption, more nepotism, more cronyism than we have ever seen. At least there will eventually be an election where the people of South Carolina will have their say. One of the most frustrating things about debt is how it starts to feel normal. You plan around payments, you delay decisions, every paycheck is already spoken for before it lands. Our sponsor, PDS Debt, can help you break that pattern. What PDS Debt will do is work with anybody who's struggling with credit cards, personal loans, collections, or medical bills. They'll look at your situation. They'll personalize solutions for you based on what you owe, what you can afford, and the path that'll help you move forward. They have customized debt relief options so that you can reduce what you owe, combine payments into one, and lower the monthly payment so that you can just get a clearer path towards getting out of debt. No minimum credit score required. Savings can start the day you complete the free 30-second assessment. PDS Debt is the top-rated company in the industry, thousands of 5-star reviews, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Go get your free 30-second personalized assessment today at pdsdebt.com/Pakman. The link is in the description. You know, it's not just reasonable skeptics and transparency advocates who are not buying the Mitch McConnell proof of life picture. It's even MAGA, and even some people in my audience just aren't buying it. So I want to go over this with you and just think through whether there is something here or it's really much ado about nothing. And there's a phrase that sometimes is a relevant phrase, which I love. And it's just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they aren't after you. And could it be relevant here in the sense of, even if you always see conspiracies, might you stumble across one sometime? Let's break it down. And I want to think through this all very critically. Now, the backstory on all of this is that it is now 1 month to the day since Mitch McConnell, former Senate Majority Leader, went to the hospital. For 28 of those 30 days, we had no idea why Mitch McConnell was there. There were demands for proof of life, and they finally reached a fever pitch on Sunday. And Mitch McConnell's social media accounts put out a statement saying he's in the hospital because he fell. He briefly lost consciousness. He didn't break anything, and also had mild pneumonia. So he ended up staying in the hospital and then moving to rehab. Included along with the statement was this picture that we're putting up on the screen of Mitch McConnell sitting next to his wife, Elaine Chao, and holding what appears to be the Sunday sports section from the Washington Post. That picture is not convincing to a lot of people. I got an email, in fact, from a viewer who wrote in and said, David, this just isn't really making any sense to me. Writing in, quote, is the Mitch McConnell photo real? I got to say, David, this is Andrew. I got to say, David, after the events of this weekend, I have never been more excited for your analysis. Do you think this Mitch McConnell photo showing proof of life is not at the very least Photoshopped to make him look healthier? Why not release a video as proof? Any feel bad for Lindsey Graham's loved ones, mainly because, I guess this person is saying, I also feel bad for Lindsey's loved ones because he's probably in hell. All right, let's deal with the McConnell thing. That's someone in our audience. Meanwhile, a lot of right-wingers also don't believe it. For example, Laura Loomer posted, how come Mitch McConnell's staff won't release a video of him? A photo could have been taken at any time. I call BS. The American people aren't stupid. And then former Utah Congressman and now a Fox News contributor, Jason Chaffetz, posted, let's see you say it. A written statement is far different than saying it on camera. Let me give you the full list of problems people have with this picture, and then we'll examine each of them. In the picture, McConnell is sitting with his wife, Elaine Chao, but his wife is in China, so that's not possible. That one's easily debunked. She was in China on June 17th. That's weeks ago. Sort of weird that she was there 3 days after her husband fell unconscious and ended up in the hospital. But just because she was in China on June 17th doesn't mean that she's not in the United States with Mitch McConnell on July 12th, which I guess was the date of the picture, supposedly. Other said there's nothing on the walls, and it even looks like there's a blank painting behind them, which has nothing on it. That must be some weird AI thing. Maybe, but that might also just be an HVAC cover. I don't know that that's really like a huge bombshell. Then they said, well, if you look at the sports pages that Mitch McConnell is holding, the text is totally scrambled like AI. And indeed, people started comparing the sports page in Mitch's hand with a high resolution image of Sunday's paper and going, is this even really the same paper? And people are saying, look at the text. It doesn't match up with the real sports page. I'll be honest, I can't tell. It does look roughly like it matches up, but it's also sort of like low resolution. I don't know. But those are some of the problems people have had with the picture. Donald Trump was asked about the Mitch McConnell situation, and he basically said, I don't know anything about it. I don't know if he's okay. I'm not a big fan of him, by the way.
At all. A couple more quick things. We got to respect your time. Did you see the video, or the picture, I should say, of Mitch McConnell this weekend? And what do you think of his outlook? What are you hearing?
Well, I don't hear much. I was, never a huge fan, but he's one of the people. He should be voting for John Thune because, John Thune was loyal to him, whether you like John Thune or not. John Thune was very loyal to Mitch McConnell, and Mitch McConnell's like a no vote on Save America Act, which is, basically, you think about it, it's voter ID. It's proof of citizenship, and it's no mail-in ballots except for the military disabled, sick, or if you're sick, or traveling, which is pretty generous right there. But the mail-in ballots might be the most important of those three items. But he's against that. Now, how can anybody be against that and against some other things? So it's too bad. But, I hope he's going to be fine. I don't know if he's fine, but I certainly hope he's going to be fine.
It's increasingly hard to believe that Trump hasn't been briefed on the health status of one of the most senior senators in Trump's party currently in the Senate. Very, very hard to believe. And there are people who think that Trump's ambivalence on it and just going, I don't really know much about it, is evidence that something weird is going on. What do people in my audience think? Leave me a comment. Send me an email, info@davidpakman.com. If you send an email, just put McConnell. I want to hear from you. But what is extraordinarily interesting is that there at least is one Republican senator who goes, I don't really know about this picture, which is fascinating. And I want to talk about that next. A Republican senator has suggested that the photograph of Mitch McConnell, published as proof of life that he's fine, might be fake. And this senator says he heard it from a source. Now, as we've talked about a lot in the last 2 weeks, Mitch McConnell's health has gotten more and more attention, especially over the last few days. After he was in the hospital for 28 days with no public statement as to why he was there, people wanted to know, is he alive? Is he on life support? Is he unconscious? And on Sunday, a photograph was released showing Mitch McConnell sitting next to his wife, Elaine Chao. We already looked at the picture and kind of went through a lot of the reasons that some people are questioning whether the picture is real or whether it is new. And then Senator Ron Johnson was asked about it. And instead of saying, I don't know enough about it to comment, Johnson says, I actually have a source that says the picture is an older picture. Maybe it's not a new picture. And there is a lot wrapped up in this. So let's first listen to Ron Johnson, then we will sort of break down each of the claims he makes.
The election. Now, Mitch McConnell, can we talk a little Mitch McConnell too? Because I saw a picture that I'm not sure I believe is actually Mitch McConnell from the hospital after what I've heard and what I've seen. Do you believe Mitch McConnell is the one who said, I'm okay, here's the picture of my wife, Elaine Chao, and I in that hospital bed?
Well, I just heard from some other source that was an older photo. So I really don't know. I haven't talked to Mitch. I certainly wish he and his family well. I hope he can recover. It's sad to watch people age, no matter who that person is. You know, I've served with Mitch McConnell for 16 years. Okay, obviously I disagree with him on a host of things, but I also know he loves this country. He loves the Senate. He reveres the Senate. And so again, I do try and put the best construction on things. I try and look for the best in people. Mitch McConnell also loves this country, so I wish him well. I hope he recovers. I hope he can come back and contribute and vote with the president's agenda.
All right. So people keep referring to a 2023 Getty image. And what a lot of people are pointing out is, hey, look, Mitch McConnell is wearing the exact same red checkered shirt in the Getty image from 2023. So the picture that was released of Mitch McConnell must actually be from 2023. Now, there are a couple problems with that claim. Number one, Mitch McConnell is clearly wearing different glasses in the picture released on Sunday than he is in this 2023 picture. And people do wear the same shirts twice. He might have just worn that red checkered shirt more than once. If anything, it arguably proves the hospital photo is real because it is a shirt that Mitch McConnell has been independently documented to own. Now, there is another aspect to this, and this is what I think is the most important aspect. They never really said the picture was taken on Sunday. It was certainly implied. It was certainly insinuated. It was called a proof of life picture along with a statement. But that photograph may not have been taken on Sunday, and it may be an old picture. And families don't always release hospital pictures when they are talking about someone in the hospital. They might release a picture from when Mitch looked better. If indeed Mitch McConnell isn't doing well, but is recovering, let's just imagine for a second. They might say, listen, he doesn't look great. He is recovering, but he doesn't look great. Let's put out an older picture. Now, is it dishonest? I think to some degree it is, because if you're asking for proof of life, you want to see the state of Mitch McConnell right now. And the family might have said, we're not putting out a picture of what he looks like right now because we don't want to. Now, they could also be putting out an old picture because he's dead or because he's unconscious, or we just don't know. But the checking and the picture he wore the same shirt 2023, I don't know that really proves anything. Now, what caught my attention wasn't the shirt so much. It was how quickly the conversation moved from here's a photograph to maybe the whole thing is fake. And this is a habit that we've seen develop over the years. For a very long time, many Republican leaders have encouraged supporters to constantly believe they were being misled. The media is lying to you. The Justice Department is lying to you. The FBI is lying to you. Scientists are lying to you. Doctors are lying to you. Teachers, your kids' teachers are definitely lying to you. Election officials are lying to you. And that mindset has become automatic for a lot of these folks. And so you get a new piece of information, and the first reaction is immediately, I'm now suspicious. And then they look for evidence that confirms or reaffirms their suspicion. And that's what Senator Ron Johnson's comments really illustrate. Whether he genuinely thought this is an old picture or was repeating something he heard, it's not really the important part. The important part is I heard from a source. And that's enough. That's enough to publicly cast doubt on the health status of one of his own colleagues. And the irony to me is that once you teach millions of people that deception is everywhere that instinct is not going to stay confined only to Democrats or to journalists or the government agencies that you don't like. Eventually, that's going to get turned inward. And so now a Republican senator's picture is very suspicious. And a Republican senator's medical condition requires a lot of speculation to figure out what's going on. And even information coming from your own side ends up getting filtered through the assumption that someone must be hiding something here. Now, I do think healthy skepticism is valuable. I am not completely convinced that Mitch McConnell is fine. I'm not completely convinced of that. And we shouldn't just blindly accept everything that we're handed. But skepticism works by asking for evidence, and suspicion works by assuming there's some hidden real story until and unless proven otherwise. And these are admittedly very different ways of looking at the world. AI is going to make this way harder to detect. I have the whole final section of my new book, Pay Attention, is about how AI is going to affect the creator space and the news media and political reporting and elections. Deep fakes are real. Image manipulation is now as easy as just typing into ChatGPT what you want. And so public officials should be careful before accepting digital media at face value, but they also should be careful before suggesting that something that might be authentic is actually fake. Because when you can dismiss every picture as AI and every video as AI, it becomes really difficult for society to agree on even the most basic facts. So Ron Johnson just made a comment that was like 30 seconds long, but it really gives us a glimpse into this political culture of suspicion as the default. And that is a habit that, listen, they've lost control of the monster that they built. If this topic is interesting, please do pre-order my book, Pay Attention. You can get one of the limited number of signed copies remaining at davidpakman.com/attention. That also has links to all the other ways to get the book. And if you want this particular book, this is not a green screen, by the way. Look at it. Whoops. The book fell. If you want, here's the book. If you want this specific copy, submit your pre-order receipt to info@davidpakman.com, and we'll put you in a raffle for this particular book. The David Pakman Show is an audience-supported program, and the best, most direct way to support the show is by becoming a member at joinpakman.com. You'll get the daily bonus show, the daily commercial-free show, and plenty of other great membership perks. Get the full experience by signing up at joinpakman.com. The internet exploded, some with gleeful expectation, after the White House announced that Donald Trump will be delivering a speech to the nation Thursday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And within minutes, people were wondering, is Trump going to resign? Donald Trump making an announcement on Truth Social where he wrote in the third person, quote, President Trump will be making a speech to the nation on Thursday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, I hate to ruin the suspense and titillated anticipation for many people in my audience. Donald Trump is not going to resign. And even if we knew nothing about any of the specifics of what's going on, one thing we do know is that people with Donald Trump's personality don't voluntarily give up power. Authoritarians don't suddenly decide, you know what? I've had enough attention on me for the last year. I think I'm gonna hang it up. Authoritarians don't spend years portraying themselves as uniquely indispensable and the only people who can solve the problems of the country, and then quietly walk away. So if you are one of the people, which I understand, hoping to tune in for a resignation speech, we're not going to get a resignation speech from Donald Trump. But something very interesting did happen. Donald Trump delivered a Gong Show interview to Hugh Hewitt. And Hugh Hewitt asked Trump, can you give us a little preview of the speech? And Trump goes, it's actually just going to be a speech like all of my speeches.
All right. I'm looking forward to your speech Thursday night. You want to give us a preview?
It's going to be a speech like a lot of my speeches. I tell you, we got a lot of good reviews between, we went out underneath the most beautiful structure you've ever seen, carved into the mountain. And there's never been such a beautiful, the radical left wants to take it down, right? They want to rip that down. But we did three of them, and then we did on July 4th. It was exciting because we had 425,000 people.
All right, so as you can see, he's not answering the question. It's just going to be a speech like his other speeches, which I guess means that I'm going to be delivering the exact same broken record speech I've been delivering for nearly a decade. That is not someone preparing to announce that they are resigning the presidency. Donald Trump also previewing his speech with Greg Kelly on Newsmax. And he goes, listen, our elections are crooked. This, I think, is the biggest hint as to what this speech is going to be about.
You have a primetime address scheduled for Thursday. Some competing ideas, what it's about. Can you give us a preview at all? What will happen Thursday night?
Well, I'm going to talk about various things, but I'd rather not say, because if I say, maybe it's going to take some of the guilt off. I think what's going to, this is GILT, when I look at this, when I look at what's happened in this country, so much with the elections, when I look at how rigged our elections are, look at Spencer Pratt. Spencer Pratt was an
How could it be that a Republican lost in Los Angeles? It can't be.
easy number two and maybe number one, but certainly number two. And all of a sudden they had the mail-in ballots pour in, and Spencer Pratt was gone. That was in Los Angeles. Spencer Pratt was gone. And that was easy. And who beat him? And no name, who was all of a sudden, so great that she got practically 100% of the votes from the mail-in ballots. The whole thing, our elections are crooked.
All right. So Trump simply cannot stay on topic. And this is an issue that Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan write out in their book Regime Change, which is Trump seems to have some kind of ADHD type thing going on where he can't stay on topic, but he is throwing in words about rigged elections, etc. So it seems that this primetime speech is going to somehow relate to election security. And the fear, of course, and what we should be anticipating is that Donald Trump is going to announce some horribly authoritarian initiative to clamp down on voting rights further before the midterms, because Donald Trump is worried he is going to get absolutely crushed in the midterm elections. Now, at the same time, reports started kind of circulating that the announcement is about Georgia. And there were some reports that Trump is going to declare that Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff are illegitimate as senators in Georgia because of something he's going to come up with. But the White House has already denied that the speech has anything specifically to do with Georgia. But it does seem like it's going to be about supposedly illegitimate elections. And why wouldn't it? Listen, Trump has spent nearly a decade telling supporters that elections are legitimate when he wins and they're suspicious when he loses. Even in 2016, now a decade ago, when he defeated Hillary Clinton in the presidential race in the Electoral College but lost the popular vote, he still hasn't accepted that he genuinely just lost the popular vote. He can't accept that. And he says there were millions of illegal votes and blah, blah, blah. He won that race, but he can't acknowledge he lost the popular vote. He still insists that he straight up won 2020. He's even gone so far as to say that if the count were fair in 2020, he would have won every state, including California, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, just every state. There have been dozens of court cases, audits, recounts, investigations, no evidence of fraud at all. But Trump continues to insist, I really won that one. And even about 2024, Donald Trump said, really, if it had been fair, I would have won by way more because I would have won all these other states that supposedly Kamala Harris won. So almost certainly, Donald Trump is preparing to challenge the legitimacy of the midterms. And it seems very plausible that he is going to announce whatever the next chapter is. And we've seen the formula before, which is if you convince people, some people, enough people, that Americans' elections are America's elections can't be trusted, then people are more willing to accept unusual and extreme measures to supposedly secure them. And what Trump really wants to do is propose solutions that make voting tougher or put the power over the elections in partisan hands that are friendly to him. And he'll almost certainly use his speech on Thursday just to reinforce that very same message, which is if elections produce the outcome that I want, you can trust them and they're secure. If they don't, the system is rigged. And we'll find out Thursday night exactly what he has planned. But if history is any guide, and with Trump, it's all just repetition of the same thing. He's been giving the same speech for nearly 10 years. He's been making the same claims for nearly 10 years. I am very concerned about what Donald Trump is planning to do here. He's not going to resign, but what is he going to do to the November elections? That should terrify every single one of us. A seemingly cognitively crumbling Donald Trump says that he nuked Iran. The brain freeze is getting worse and worse. Donald Trump last night giving a string of strange interviews on Newsmax with Hugh Hewitt, all sorts of interviews, including this one with the Salem News Channel. Donald Trump saying, if I hadn't hit Iran with nuclear, they would have nuclear. More unhinged and incoherent every single day. Donald Trump seems to think he nuked Iran.
Saying that you've undercut Bibi, you've thrown him under the bus. Have you?
No, not at all. No, I get along with him very well. Sometimes I disagree with him, and I let it be known, and I've been right. But no, I think he's good. Look, he's a wartime prime minister. He's done a good job. If I wasn't around, or if Bibi wasn't around, especially the combination, Israel would not exist today. We wouldn't have hit him with the B-2 bombers. You know, they were going to have a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks. Had I not hit them with a nuclear,
they would have a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks had I not hit them with the nuclear. Is this a linguistic glitch? Is this a brain glitch? Does Trump believe that he nuked Iran? You can go further down this rabbit hole. Did Trump give an order to nuke Iran? And was he told, yes, sir, right away, sir, right away? And then Iran wasn't nuked because someone said, this guy is non compos mentis. We're not going to do it. We have no idea. We simply have no idea. Donald Trump on Lindsey Graham, increasingly concerned, you can tell, about hereditary and inherited conditions. As many of you know, Donald Trump's father had dementia. Trump mentioning that Lindsey Graham's father died at a similar age to Lindsey Graham.
Amazing, actually. But he was, I don't think, just to answer the conspiracy theory, I don't know. I'd love to say yes, but I think he had some problems and very, very difficult. And his father died just about at the same age from, I'm a believer in the racehorse theory. If you have problems, you have problems. And he had some problems that were a little bit deep-seated and not easy to find.
There you go. So Donald Trump clearly thinking about what sorts of medical conditions, I guess, run in families. I played this clip earlier, but it was part of these interviews, and I want to play it again. Donald Trump with no idea as to the health status of Mitch McConnell, and doesn't even really seem to care that much, interestingly enough.
At all. A couple more quick things. We got to respect your time. Did you see the video, or the picture, I should say, of Mitch McConnell this weekend? And what do you think of his outlook? What are you hearing?
Well, I don't hear much. I was, never a huge fan, but he's one of the people. He should be voting for John Thune because, John Thune was loyal to him, whether you like John Thune or not. John Thune was very loyal to Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell's like a no vote on Save America Act, which is, basically, you think about it, it's voter ID, it's proof of citizenship, and it's no mail-in ballots except for the military, disabled, sick, or if you're sick, or traveling, which is pretty generous right there. But the mail-in ballots might be the most important of those three items. But he's against that. Now, how can anybody be against that? And against some other things. So it's too bad. But, I hope he's going to be fine. I don't know if he's fine, but I certainly
no
hope
idea. But, I guess we'll just have to figure it out. I don't believe this. I think Trump must know what's going on with Mitch McConnell. It simply doesn't make sense that the president would not know. The topic of Donald Trump on currency, either with his face on a bill or his signature on it. Trump, now that he is going to have his signature, I guess, on $100 bills, goes, listen, other people are doing this stuff. I'm not interested in this. It's just other people. Does anyone for a second believe that Donald Trump is not encouraging people to propose putting his name and face on stuff? Give me a break.
And before we say goodnight, we want to take a look at the new $100 bill being printed with your signature on it. You know, some of us, we don't carry cash like we used to. We have plastic. Cash is not as, but your signature's on it. What does that mean to you? Your name is on a legal piece of currency. It's never, I guess it was done before, but from a personal standpoint and a professional standpoint, what does this mean?
Well, it's always an honor to have your name on something like that, and it's on all the currency. And it's an honor. You know, it's great. They also just came out with a silver dollar, which is very nice. So I don't know. All of these tributes are nice. I don't fight for them, believe it or not. Most people think I fight for them. I don't. Other people fight for them because we have a base like there has never been in this country. Whether you call it MAGA, whatever you want to call it, we have a base the likes of which nobody's ever seen.
The idea that out of nowhere, Republicans are going, hey, you know what we should propose and do? Putting Trump's face and signature or both on stuff. Even if there are some instances of that, it's because people know that to stay in Trump's good graces, you've got to suck up to him and show how loyal you are. And these are all loyalty contests. A bizarre Kafkaesque moment where Greg Kelly attacks Joe Biden for having become wealthy as a public official. How is he not realizing, or how is he ignoring, that Trump hasn't made over $1 billion just on crypto in the last year? Biden made a few $1,000,000 from his book deal, and Trump making $1 billion from crypto isn't the scandal?
And Joe Biden somehow became rich as a public official. You know, we saw the front stoop, if you will, the outside of Lindsey Graham's house. And it was rather modest, totally decent, but rather modest. You know, a man who lived his entire life in public service. That's kind of how it's supposed to look. And Joe Biden became a very rich man while working for the government. It's very strange, isn't it? President Trump, we thank you very, very much for joining us.
Well, what a fair journalistic thing to say. Now, it is believed that Joe Biden's net worth is about $10 million, and most of that came from writing a book. Similar to, you know, Bernie Sanders is a modestly wealthy. He's not wealthy like Trump, obviously, or Obama, but Bernie made a bunch of money writing a book as well. Trump made over $1 billion just from crypto in 2025. How do this is peanuts. This is pennies on the dollar. And Greg Kelly has the audacity to go, oh, Biden made money. Trump got $1 billion just from crypto and has tripled his net worth since becoming president for the second time. Finally, Donald Trump continuing with his delusions. He believed that he was blessed by God. And that's why he turned his head that day in Butler, Pennsylvania, when he was shot at, and that it's thanks to God.
I was really blessed by God because I had made that little turn, which was, you know, really not so little. It was exactly a 90 degree. If it wasn't exact, right. The whole thing is a miracle. It's really a miracle. It's amazing. But the Secret Service did a very good job other than, and it's hard to say other than, but other than, nobody should have been on that roof.
And a blessing to talk to you.
The question I have, if God is so involved in all of this, why didn't God simply prevent the shooter from getting on the roof? Why didn't God prevent the shooter from being born? Why didn't God make the guy's gun jam? Why did God allow an innocent firefighter who happened to be behind Trump to be shot and killed by that errant bullet? Very strange reasoning, but I guess for some people, this kind of analysis makes sense. Sounds weird to me. If you like this show, I would love for you to get my Substack writing. Each day, I'll send you a rundown of what's on the show, what's happening, what matters, why. It's free, no spam. Substack is also the only place where we own our data. So if we get censored on social media or on any platform, Substack's going to be the only way I can tell you what is going on. Sign up now at davidpakman.substack.com. Donald Trump was presented with the reality that if Democrats take the House in November, he's getting impeached. And his reaction was, to say the least, a little bit weird, but he seemed shaken up by it. Here's Hugh Hewitt saying to Trump, listen, the Democrats win the House, they're going to impeach you. Would J.D. Vance represent you in that case? Kind of a weird question, actually. And Trump just goes, I don't like to think about it. But we know he's scared because he's talked about it. And Mike Johnson has talked about it, and so have others. But here is Trump being asked about it.
If the Democrats win the House, they're going to impeach you. And I don't care what the argument is. They're just going to find a way to impeach you. You know, J.D. Vance could represent you, and he can be in the Senate doing the same thing. Have you thought about that? He's a good lawyer.
Well, I don't like to think about it too much because I think we're going to do well. In fact,
it's hard to think of a sillier idea than the vice president representing the president in an impeachment trial in the Senate. It's just superficially very stupid. But Trump really does not want to be impeached again. And we all know that if Democrats don't take the Senate, Trump will never be convicted in the Senate. But it is the responsibility of the House of Representatives, as I've explained before, to evaluate whether the president has engaged in impeachable actions. And if the president has, then you have to impeach and you let the cards fall where they may. Trump plays it off like a badge of honor. They impeached me twice over a perfect phone call and this and that. But he doesn't want that as his legacy. And I think Trump will be impeached by the House if Democrats take the House. He won't be convicted. And that, combined with investigations and oversight and subpoenas and testimony, it's going to make it a really tough 2 years for Donald Trump, but we've got to make sure we vote and make that a reality. Donald Trump disgustingly refers to Kamala Harris as half a person. And I couldn't help but remember that at one point in American history, Kamala Harris would have been considered 3/5 of a person, the 3/5 compromise related to slaves, black people, etc. And Trump now goes, she counts as half. Now, I know Donald Trump is not contextualizing this in the context of the 3/5 compromise, but a black woman who only counts as half, dear God, he can't help himself.
When that loser from ABC did the debate, and he was so biased, and it was him and an unknown woman, but who was a radical left person. Right. And I said, well, wait a minute, this is 2.5 against 1. They said, who's the half? I said, Kamala is the half.
Kamala is the half. This is dehumanizing misogyny. Dehumanizing misogyny. Nothing new from Donald Trump, but that's what it is. Trump, with his relatable subjects, we're building a heliport because we don't want my many helicopters landing in the mud and getting the wheels all dirty. Really relatable stuff.
Building a heliport because for years they should have had it built at the White House. You know, they're landing in the mud all the time. And so we're building a little heliport, not that little actually, but a heliport.
People were promised gas is going to be so much more affordable, but it's more expensive. And people were promised energy is going to be so much more affordable, but it's more expensive. And people were promised you're going to see wage growth that exceeds inflation. Inflation is up and wage growth is down. And people were promised affordability will be the number one priority as we don't do any new wars. And it all didn't happen. None of it happened. And Trump goes with, we're building a heliport because I can't have my helicopters landing in the mud. They, on the right, continue to be obsessed with the official language of the United States. Hugh Hewitt has an idea. Don't make the official language English because that sounds British, like English as in of England. Make the official language American, which will piss off the people who speak Spanish. And it will piss off, I don't know, I guess it'll piss off everybody. Who the hell knows? It's very weird.
I got 3 suggestions for you. Number 1, there was an essay in the Washington Post, make American the official language of America, not English. I think you ought to look at that because it's a good idea.
All right.
All right. Trump's like, whatever. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'll do whatever people suggest. It sounds more interesting than actually doing the normal job of President of the United States. Make the official language American. American. And then finally, in one of the most humiliating interviews I've ever seen, Trump is abruptly cut off because they needed to air an AI-generated talking dog commercial for Medicare Advantage, which really tells you a lot about the demographic groups that are watching this crap. Take a look at this.
No, I would love to do something like that. I can't imagine they do it, but if they would do it, I would do it.
If your human is new to Medicare, recently moved,
this is a dog talking, by the way,
or losing coverage, sit and listen to this important message.
Finding Medicare Advantage.
All right. An interview with the President of the United States. I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to that speech on Thursday, not because I think Trump's going to announce anything that is going to help anybody but himself, but because he's having a very bad week and he's looking and sounding as bad as he ever has. And Hugh Hewitt doing everything he can to rescue Donald Trump. Every once in a while, I cover something that sounds like it should be some small technical issue, and then my inbox explodes with 1,000 emails about the thing. And that is exactly what happened after I talked about people claiming they had been mysteriously unsubscribed from my YouTube channel. Now, some people immediately dismissed this. And in fact, YouTube has always dismissed this when I communicate it to them. When I say to YouTube, hey, people are saying they were subscribed to my channel and they looked and now they're unsubscribed. They go, no, people probably clicked the wrong button. They thought they subscribed, but they didn't. Or they forgot that they had unsubscribed at some point. They did, and then they're wondering. But after I brought this up, I started getting emails like this one. Here's an email from a viewer named David, who says, hey, David, hope all is well with you. I wanted to reach out about the topic of YouTube unsubscriptions, which you touched on in a recent show. I have then it gives us bona fides. I have a PhD from the University of California. I've written 2 books and multiple articles. I have received a student Fulbright, and I've been teaching at a public university for 25 years. I say this, of course, to brag a bit, but more importantly, to show I am not stupid. At the very least, I know I would not be confused about something as simple as a subscription to a podcast. I know that I have been unsubscribed from your podcast at least once. More interestingly, I have been unsubscribed from Aaron Parnas's podcast at least 2 or 3 times in the last 6 months. I can't help but raise an eyebrow about the unsubscriptions from Aaron's show, which keeps the Epstein files front and center in the public's consciousness. In my mind, the unsubscription issue is a real thing. The question I have is whether or not podcasts that focus on certain topics like Epstein have higher unsubscription rates. Hopes you or someone on your team reads this. Now, notice something important here. The interesting part isn't whether this particular person is right or wrong. I was definitely subscribed. The interesting part is everybody is independently reporting the same experience. Whenever hundreds or over 1,000 people write in and describe the same damn thing, we have to ask questions about it. Now, that doesn't mean the explanation is sinister or that there's a conspiracy. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But it also doesn't mean you dismiss everybody as confused. And so far, every time I've asked about, listen, dozens of people every month, hundreds of people over a period of time, they're saying they were subscribed and now they are no longer subscribed. Now, there are several possible explanations. We've got to give a differential diagnosis. Could there be some user error? People have multiple devices. Maybe they have multiple Google accounts. They hit subscribe with one Google account to my YouTube channel, and then on a different device, they're logged into a different channel. They're not subscribed. Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. Is it possible someone was already subscribed and thinking they were subscribing, they actually unsubscribed? It's possible. Could they have restored a phone from a backup and I'm speculating here, I don't even know, and somehow that made it so they weren't subscribed? Yes, that's possible. Second possibility, are there software bugs or issues related to latency and internet connections? If you've used modern technology, you know that subscriptions and notifications and settings and preferences, sometimes they can change in unexpected ways. And companies put out bug fixes because software is not perfect and something like that. Is that possible? Is it possible that there was some internet latency issue where someone hit subscribe, but it didn't reach the server. And I don't know. And then there's the third possibility that is harder to evaluate, which is that there are really complicated recommendation systems with billions of interactions, and there can be synchronization bugs or edge cases without anybody being targeted. That is all totally possible. And these are claims that need evidence. At the same time, pretending that every report, even when I get 1,000, must be user error isn't really evidence either. So what I want to know is, how common is this? Are people in my audience, forget about my YouTube channel, are you finding yourself not subscribed to other channels you had subscribed to? Are people who watch primarily non-political content finding that they are not subscribed to stuff they believe they were subscribed to? I got to tell you one thing personally. For me, I've never found myself unsubscribed from things I thought I had subscribed to, but I've often found myself subscribed to things I definitely had not subscribed to. Sometimes I think that there are sort of like subscription recommendations that can be surreptitiously hidden and people accidentally subscribe to stuff. But the point is, usually platforms recognize we want to get more people subscribed to content, not unsubscribed, because that increases their time on our platforms. So I want to hear from you. Are political shows more affected than cooking shows, sports, comedy? Or are people more likely to notice when it's a show they follow every day versus one that they don't? These are empirical questions. I think the platforms are much better positioned to answer these than anybody in the audience could. But in the meantime, here is something practical. If you're watching this because someone sent it to you or because it randomly appeared in your feed after weeks of not seeing my show, take 5 seconds and just check whether you're subscribed. Not because I know YouTube is unsubscribing people or there's a massive plot, but just because we got 1,000 reports since I brought this up last week of people saying, I'm sure I was subscribed, I checked, and I'm not. If you look and everything looks normal, great. If you discover you've somehow been unsubscribed, please leave a comment on this video saying, I just checked and I was unsubscribed. That way we can then take the comment and send it to YouTube. The goal is not to prove a preconceived theory. We want to gather evidence and figure out, are these isolated anecdotes? Is it user error? Is it a software issue? Is it something else? I think it will be much more productive than assuming anything. On today's bonus show, a U.S. judge has nullified a deal to resolve Trump's IRS lawsuit. It has been nullified. We are going back to the beginning. Todd Blanche now has to win over, not over Democrats, but skeptical Republicans if he wants to become permanent attorney general. And political text messages could be getting more effective and more annoying thanks to AI. All of those stories and more on today's bonus show. Sign up at joinpakman.com. Get instant access. I'll see you then.